did they really know where Ur was? Did they really know about Ur? Is this just something that was made up? But since then, they have found all of the city, uncovered the city, have excavated the city. It was a great city. It was a very wealthy city. As a matter of fact, inside of the city of Ur, they have found Nahor's place. They can figure out who lived where because they still have mosaics. They still have tiles and all these things. So they can figure it out whose place was what. And this is in modern day Iraq, okay? And so this is where they are. They've excavated this. They've found bracelets and jewelry and plaques and mosaics and pottery and all kinds of artifacts that show us that Ur was a pretty wealthy and a pretty big to-do city. Now, inside of Ur, in this big city, was also like the central hub of sun and moon worship. And this is important. Remember, Abraham is the father of three major religions, is he not? Yes. So three major religions look to Abraham as their father. One, obviously Israel, the Jews look to him, and us as Christians, because we look back to Jesus, going back to Father Abraham. But so do the Muslims. The Muslims look at Abraham. Now they changed the Quran from the Bible, from the original text. They changed it in about 600 to 700 AD. They started their changes, and they changed it from Abraham taking Isaac up on the mount to taking Ishmael up on the mount. But that was not changed until well after 600 AD. Everybody with me on that? And so you have to understand this, because they'll come at you and they'll come at the Bible, but what they have is a whole lot older than the Bible. It's not us that needs to give an account to them. It's them that need to give an account to us. And they need to give an account to Israel. Israel does not have to give an account to the nation of Islam. Amen? Everybody with me on that? All right, so there's some really crude things about Ur you need to understand, and why God called him out of that. Not going to leave you there. And notice what he said. He said, I want you to get out of your country and away from your family. And here's why. In Ur, this is what they did. So in Ur, they worshiped, their chief deity was Ur, also later called Sol, the sun god or the moon goddess. And so there's some speculation as to the name changes and the changes in the names of the gods and their images over a span of about 1,000 years. But it appears this way, that when Abram lived there, the chief deity or the chief idol is Ur. And so in Ur was Ur. And so Ur was basically God of the sky, the stars, the atmosphere. But under it, there were two other deities that later became chief deities in the region. Most of the Chaldeans in the area took the sun god as the main god. But it appears that Nahor and his family, they chose the moon goddess. And her name was Ningel. And so they worshiped Ningel. It appears that at the time that Abraham left, Ningel was the prominent figure, which makes sense when you come to Islam. Because I want you to realize this, folks. Allah of Islam goes back to Ningel. It goes back to the moon worship. They are moon worshipers. They were worshiping the moon. And so if you don't believe that, all you have to do is look at their symbols. They worship the crescent moon. The crescent moon is the fertility of Ningel. That was when Ningel was supposed to be the most fertile, where then she would get together with the sun god, and they would have an offspring, which later was called Sol, the sun god. Later, because the moon swallowed up the sun died, gave birth to another sun. It's corrupt. It's confusing as all get out. How do people believe this nonsense anyway? But nevertheless, I mean, you gotta really be out there, right? But nevertheless, it is in this idolatry. Now here's the worst part. This goes long before Abram's father or grandfather. When they started worshiping the sun and moon, every female had to serve as a temple prostitute in the temple of Ningel, or the temple of the temple of the sun god, the temple of Sol or Ra, whatever name they called it at the time. They had to serve as a temple priestess. And so they would serve as a temple priestess from about the age of 13 till about the age of their early 20s. Then they could get married and have a family. But they had to be a temple prostitute for that age span. That's terrible, is it not? And so that was their idea of religion. So there was temple prostitution, there was sacrifice. Some speculation is human sacrifice, but they've never proven that they sacrificed humans to the moon god. Other cultures sacrifice humans to the sun god, but it doesn't appear to be to the moon god. Nevertheless, they had temple prostitution. So it's a corrupt system. Here's this man, Abram. He's 75 years old. There has to be something that Abram is wondering. There has to be something Abram is thinking about. There has to be something, someone somewhere told him something that caused him to be recipient to when the Lord called him. Just like you and I. Folks, there's no one that's saved without hearing the truth. You do not get saved without hearing the gospel. You've got to hear the gospel. The gospel is the seed. So understand this. Why should we tell the gospel to everybody? It is the seed that gets planted. It's what we water. God gives the increase. So we tell everybody from nice moral people to totally religiously corrupt people, drunkards and drug addicts and prostitutes, everybody. We tell everybody about Jesus. Why? Because Jesus can save anyone. And so here's Abram. I don't know what it was that he heard. I don't know what it was that he learned. But somehow along the line, he was open to hearing from God. And God spoke to Abram. He believed God. He did not believe in these false gods. He did not believe in these temple prostitutes. He didn't believe in this stuff. He didn't want that in his life. He wanted something else. He wanted the truth. And God gave him the truth. Folks, it's amazing if you stop and put the human element in it, is it not? And so here's a real man living in a corrupt culture. He's 75 years old and God speaks to him. And notice what he says. Get up and get out. So now that you know about you know why you'd want to get away from your family, don't you? Now his family didn't want to get away from him, did they? And we see that who went with him? Lot. Yeah. And Lot was a whole lot of trouble, was he not? Right. He sure was. And so God said for Abram to get up and get out, get away from this country, and I'm going to take you to a city whose builder and maker was God. We'll see that in a later chapter. And so he was traveling throughout his life, 75 years old. I'm headed out. I'm packing up my family. I'm packing up everything I've got. All he had was him and his wife and his cattle. He obviously probably had some wealth by now at 75. I'm sure they had felt deflated, defeated, because they didn't have a child of their own. They didn't have anything to leave behind. It was easier, too, for him to get up and get out when you don't have kids and grandkids. Try moving away from grandkids one time. Moving away from kids is easy. Grandkids a whole nother story, right? Amen. And so he didn't have that. So God spoke to him. He's up, he's about, I will. Notice what God says. God now is going to show him some very important things. And this is what I want you to see today. So the important things are the I wills that God gives. So he says to Abraham, number one, Abram's descendants will become a nation of Israel. 75, Sarai is in her 70s. She never had, and God changes her name to Sarah as well. And we'll talk about that later. And so he changes her, but he promises Abram. And he says, I'm going to make you a father of many nations. I will Notice what he says. Get out of your country and from the kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation. So I will show you a land. There's coming a land. By the way, when God did show Abram the land, He made him a promise. As far as you can see from there to there to there, wherever your foot touches, it's yours. That's soul power right there, right? Where old reference, but soul power. Wherever his foot touched, that was his. It was his domain. And so from over there to over there to over here to over there, wherever you see, wherever you can travel, I promise it to you. I give it to you. And it was a huge land. I want you to realize the descendants of Israel have never inherited the completion of the promised land, but they will one day. And we're going to see that happen. But nevertheless, his descendants would be a mighty nation. Now, I've got a few notes I wanted to share with you today that I took from Oliver B. Green. He said the Jews have remained an ethnically pure people. It's the only ancient people that have remained ethnically pure. And think about that. So the nation of Israel has been scattered throughout the world. They have been persecuted beyond belief. They have been slaughtered wholesale by the Nazis. And yet God has blessed them and kept them. And the greatest thing is, as we know it's the last time, because as the nation was destroyed, God promised to bring them back. And He has brought them back into their land, and He has given them their own country, and He has given them their own capital city, and has made them a mighty military. All of these things are prophetic in nature, and we know it's the last days because of that. That's the super sign that we're in the time in which the world is setting the stage for the Antichrist. You know, I mean, that is the super sign. And he said this, it seems it would be impossible for a people to remain ethnically pure for 4,000 years, except that God made an unconditional promise right here. God didn't say to Abraham, I'll do it if you do this. God said, I will. And the great I am, when He says I will, it gets done. Because God is in control. Think about this for just a minute. Oh, Hitler thought he was in control, didn't he? He's learning a valuable lesson right now, is he not? Yes, indeed. You think about all the people that persecuted the Jews throughout all the centuries. Think about those Roman emperors. Think about Trajan, the Emperor Trajan. Man, slaughtered Christians, slaughtered Jews wholesale. He thought he ruled, thought he knew best. But he knows better now too. You and I need to realize, folks, as we look at the world news, y'all help me out now. You tell me if I'm not telling you the truth. As we look at the world news today and all of the focus that's back on Israel, you know that's God saying, you're not in control, I'm in control. A little nation the size of Rhode Island, the world is focused on it. Why? They hardly have any natural resources. They hardly have any people compared to the rest of the world. They hardly have anything worth paying attention to. Other than God said that I am going to set them as my people. And when God does that, the world cannot help but focus on them. Cannot help it. My grandfather fought in Jerusalem in World War I before they were ever a nation. My grandfather was there. There's a picture, there's a famous picture in the city of Jerusalem, which was just ruins back then and just a few small places. But there's a whole bunch of British, American, and French soldiers sitting on a wall and some tanks sitting there. My grandfather's in that picture somewhere. I have no idea where, but you probably couldn't pick him out because it's blurry. But the picture's there, and he's there. This is victory. This is after they've won the battle. But they fought the Ottoman Empire. And my grandfather said to me when I was a small boy, when he was in Israel, when he was in Jerusalem, there was nothing there. It was a desolate wasteland. There was a low-lying area that was full of mosquitoes and malaria. but there were a few olive trees, there was a few bakeries, most of it was just Bedouins, people that lived in tents and had camels and goats and such. But it was nothing. It was nothing. And look what it is now. When God brought those people back. Listen, I've had people tell me, oh, that was just, it's a political thing and it's just Zionism and all that. God isn't doing this. People are doing this to try to bring about power for themselves, to say the Western world has the power. That's what governments do. That's not what the governments have done. That was what God did. Because God said it was going to happen exactly like He said it was going to happen. It came to happen thousands of years before it happened. So everything else God said is going to happen is happening. And I told you the other week when Netanyahu stood up there and made his speech, and he showed the map, and he took the map and he held it up there. And as he showed the map, he showed what it was just 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it was, when he made the first speech there. And all the enemies, and everybody was focused on Israel and Temple Mount and the Palestinian problem. And he said, to be honest, there's only 2% are Palestinians. 2% of Islam is Palestinian. So what he did 20 years ago was start to try to work and make friends with the Islamic nations around his region. They're not Palestinian. They hate the Palestinians as much as the Jews do because they're like fleas. They're irritating. They keep progress from happening. So what he has been, so he flipped the map over. And all of a sudden, when he flipped the map over, you could read Ezekiel 38, and there it was. All of the nations that are mentioned, all the people groups that are mentioned in Ezekiel 38, where they say peace and safety and sudden destruction comes, He's made peace with all of these people who then are going to put down their own people, Islamic people against the Palestinians, to work out a deal on Temple Mount. And he said, he drew a line straight like this up to England. Folks, this will give you cold chills. And he said, because of this peace, we now will have free trade with all of the Western world and all of the Islamic world. That's exactly what the Bible says is going to happen. And then when they feel that they're at peace with their neighbors, suddenly their neighbors attack. This is what's going to happen. And the stage is being set. And folks, we got to see this. So when God says, I will, it's unconditional. Other than all throughout the Bible, He said, guess what? When you do this, I'm going to have to pull you out of there. I'm going to pull you out. Now I'm going to bring you back in. Didn't He tell, as we talked earlier, didn't He tell the early believers that they would be in captivity? He told Abraham this. Your descendants will be in captivity for 400 years, but then they'll be out. They were in Egypt 400 years and they came out. They came out greater, mightier, and stronger. God did that to develop a nation when if they were in traveling, they might not have made themselves a nation. They might have been defeated by another group. God knows what He's doing. Didn't God tell the children of Israel, now you're in your promised land, you need to kill all of those enemies. Drive them out or kill them. Why? Because they are descendants of people who worship the moon god and the sun god. They worship false gods and idols. You need to get them out. This is my land. It's your land. It's not theirs anymore. Cleanse it. You're going to have cities you didn't build. You're going to have wells you didn't dig. You're going to have fruit trees that you didn't plant. You're going to have olive trees and grapes that you didn't plant. It's going to be a blessing, but you've got to drive these people out. And if you don't, then I will have to chasten you. And so what happened? They didn't do it, did they? And they intermingled with the people of that land, and God had to take them back into captivity and dispersion. Then He brought them back into their land. What did they do? Jesus showed up on the scene. He was their king. They rejected Jesus. And what happened? So God drove them out of their land. They did not accept their Messiah. They did not accept their king. So if you won't accept the king, you can't have a king over a land that you won't accept. Pretty simple, isn't it? Yes, exactly. So out of their land they go. All around the world they're scattered. And God kept them. And even this, God knows those are from each tribe. And He's kept them. That's the power of God. The whole time the world thought they're in power. The whole time the Jews thought they were in control of themselves, but they weren't. God was in control. And what's going to happen is this. In these last days, God brings them back into the land, which we have seen. 1948, they became a nation. 1967, they got the capital of Jerusalem. A couple of years ago, we were the first to make the capital, the recognized capital, and put our embassy there. Others have followed suit. Guess what? A lot of those Islamic nations now are planning to do the same thing. Why? Because they're saying peace and safety. They are pulling Israel into the net. They are springing a trap. Israel thinks they're in control. They're not. God is. Those Israelis are not in control. Those Palestinians are not in control. Those Arabs are not in control. God is. So God is developing the trap as God said He would develop the trap. Just the people think they're doing it. They're not. And the trap will be sprung. And they will surround Israel. Guess what? When they surround Israel to spring the trap, God said He would intervene. When He intervenes, He's sending fire and brimstone. The people are going to kill themselves. 7 months they're burying the dead bodies? Come on, y'all. God is in control. I will make you a nation. I will. And God is. In the millennial reign, you and I are going to see the entire Israel become Israel. What it is right now is about this big. It's going to become about that big. All the land God promised is theirs. But what's greater is this. At the end of 1,000 years, Satan is going to be let loose for a little season. Guess what Satan's going to do? Satan is going to get the rest of the world, and he's going to do the same thing he's done now. And the focus once again will be on Jerusalem. The focus will be on Jesus, the King of Jerusalem. And they will think that they can defeat God Almighty. And they once again will try to attack Jesus. They will try to attack Jerusalem. And the Lord will speak, and this world is done for. And then there's a new earth. And guess what the new earth is? The new earth is the new Jerusalem. The entire earth is for God's people. And there's a new city coming down, adorned as a bride for her husband. Guess what that's for? That's for us. That's for us. And we're going to dwell there forever, folks. Forever and forever. It's amazing how God is going to do. Because God said, I will do it. God will do it. And when God said, I will show you the land and I will make you a great nation, it's not if you do anything. I'm just going to do it. Amen? Just like in the New Testament when He says, if you repent and believe, I'll save you to the uttermost. I will. I will, I will, I will. It's unconditional. Notice what else He said. We're almost done today. Number 2, He said this, or 3 actually. I will bless thee and make thy name great. So I'm going to make your name great. Do you realize that the entire world knows who Abraham is? The entire world. You know the entire world doesn't know who Jesus is? But they know who Abraham is. Isn't that amazing? The name of Abraham has gone around the world. The same is with Noah. They may not know Noah's name, but they know Noah because everywhere around the world is the story of the flood. But it's amazing. Everywhere around the world, even in Aboriginal countries, down in what's that? Australia. Those people knew about Abraham. How did those people know about Abraham? How did the Mayans have the story of Abraham? Does that make any sense? Don't make any sense to me. Somebody had to tell them. I believe God tells people. I can't grasp that at all. And I'm sure you can't either. Am I right or am I wrong? I cannot imagine people around the world grasping the fact that we are from one parent, and then we are from one after the flood, and then we are religiously after Abraham. People who've never even heard of Abraham. Here's something interesting, and I can't explain this, and I don't think anybody can. They're still working on it. When our missionaries went to Arizona, Utah, out in the West, our first Christian missionaries went there. Those people had never heard about Jesus. They had never heard about the Bible. But they had the same patriarchal stories. I can't grasp that. Because the descendants came across the Bering Straits. Y'all know that, right? So this is a long time before Abraham. But for some reason, they understood the stories, and there's no comprehension. There's no real understanding of why they would know this. But they understood about Abraham, and they understood about Joseph. How did they get that? I believe the world was smaller than we want to think it was. And I believe travel happened a lot more than we want to think. Because what were we taught in America? What were we taught in school? 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Columbus discovered America. No, he didn't. It's like me saying, I discovered Waynesboro. There's already people living there. Come on. It's like saying that somebody discovered something when they dressed like Europeans. They dressed like Egyptians. They worshiped like the Egyptians. I think maybe some Egyptians might have been there. I don't know. What do you think? It's pretty bizarre, isn't it? Do you realize that it is a mystery even to this day? We don't understand it, but you can't refute it. It's drawn on cave walls. How did it get there? How did they know this? Somebody had to show them. Somebody had to tell them. Are we with each other today? So it's amazing how people knew about Abraham that never heard about Jesus. But they knew about Abraham, even knew about a Joseph figure. Let's keep going. So I'll bless them that bless thee, curse them that curse thee. This is the last one. We're done this morning because it's about that time. This is unconditional. There's no time limit to this. This comes after he said, I'll make you a father of a nation. I'll make you a nation, and I'll make your name mighty. And I'll bless them that bless thee and curse them that curse thee. This is ratified later on. And folks, I want you to know it's still in effect today. God will bless those who bless the descendants of Abraham. And God will curse those that curse the descendants of Abraham. Look what happened to those who have cursed the Jews. They have been severely punished by God. You and I need to learn a lesson. In the last days, and I'm done this morning, the Bible tells us, remember I told you about Netanyahu and his picture? Do you realize that when that trap is sprung, nobody stands with Israel? They don't have a friend, one in the world. Nobody comes to their aid. Right now, if that trap sprung right this minute, we would come to their aid. Something's going to happen where we have no power to come to their aid. It's happening before our eyes. But we don't see it, do we, brethren? We don't want to see it. The judgment of God is upon this nation. And if this nation who has befriended Israel, now God used us to be instrumental. And God used England to be instrumental to bring Israel back as a nation. England has turned their back on Israel time and time again. How are they faring right now? You and I, if our nation turns our back on Israel, folks, that's it. The death nail was already in our coffin in 2015, the day we accepted gay marriage in this country. That is the death nail in every culture. And from that day to this day, we have spiraled out of control, down. But if we turn our back on Israel, that's it. That's it. It's unconditional. I don't agree with everything Israel does, and I certainly don't love every Jew there is. But we are commanded to bless and not curse. Amen? All right. So anyway, there's your Sunday school lesson. We'll pick up right there next week and see what we have. I'll see y'all tonight at Revival. It's at what time? 7. Yeah, y'all are smart. 7 o'clock tonight. If you come early, I'll probably be here, but you'll be here pretty much by your lonesome. All right? So I'll see you at 7 o'clock. Men, by the way, if you want to pray with us